Hello, everybody. The flu kicked my ass, but I am back. Because I kick back. Alright. So, Venezuelans are now protesting their lack of power and water. These protest demonstrations have a lot of space in between. Small groups, all spuriously placed. But they are very loud about lacking electricity and water. This follows two major blackouts which have had a serious negative impact on schools, commerce, and public services. The protests were in fact spontaneous. These were not premeditated. Although they were shouting slogans and holding signs and stuff. So while maybe not premeditated, there was some prepping done. A whopping 10 neighborhoods in Caracas are up in protest, as well as some parts of the provinces. On Sunday morning, the power flickered a little bit before going out completely, as per witnesses and social media. A 45-year-old nurse, Jose de la Cruz, has said, "We're here because there's no water, no power, and unchecked crime. I'm asking Maduro to go just look at how things are. We have to go into the streets on the Sunday to protest because so many things aren't working." Like, yeah, you heard that right. We're blaming this on Maduro. Not Juan Guaido, although I could see why someone might want to blame it on him, because he is quite possibly a U.S.-appointed puppet, and therefore might be a deliberate attempt to sabotage. That's just my opinion, that's just a theory, so I'm not saying it's factual in any way. But, nonetheless, they are holding Maduro responsible for this issue. But this info comes from Reuters. A witness for Reuters has heard gunshots and violence near some barricades that had been set up. At least one woman had been injured by gunfire. The government of Maduro has said that the issue is caused by cyber attacks and snipers hitting their hydroelectric dams. This to me seems unlikely, since such services were nationalized by the former president Hugo Chavez in 2007. And you know what happens when these socialist governments nationalize such services? The problem with socialism is that the governments behind it usually find a way to spend all that money in all the wrong places. They say they care about the people and that they're going to take care of the people, ward of the state, and yet when it comes right down to it, they actually do nothing to take care of the people. Instead, they spend that money catering to their own power, their own personal power, their PPP. Surprise, surprise, government corruption. Who'd have thought? But Juan Guaido has been pushing the demonstrations clearly in an attempt to gain legitimacy and clout. Nicolas Maduro claims that Guaido is a U.S. puppet, whereas Guaido claims that Maduro is a usurper and his election win was illegitimate. Well, you know what? Why can't both be true? Why can't both his election win be illegitimate and Juan Guaido be a U.S. shill? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that turned out to be true. That would be classic United States foreign policy right there. Now imagine if this really wasn't by attempt, but not by Maduro, but by Juan Guaido to sabotage. So hear me out. Hear my hypothesis. Maduro wants Venezuela for Venezuelans. He wants to nationalize oil. He wants to, if you want our oil, you're going to have to come buy it. He's like the villain from the second Mercenaries game, Mercenaries 2: World in Flames. Right? And this, of course, makes the U.S. angry. They just want free oil. They just want to come in and be able to take it anytime they want, right? So then they come up with this guy, Juan Guaido. They create a new Venezuelan president that will be friendly to the United States. Favor for a favor. He gets political power, they get oil. It's a match made in heaven. So he manufactures a crisis. He creates a crisis, waits for a response, and then blames it all on the other guy to gain political clout and influence. That's just my theory, my opinion. It'd be awfully sneaky, and it would be in line with certain forces within our own government. But at the same time, I totally think that Maduro might have actually been pushed in. In fact, it's well known that Maduro was not elected, but rather appointed himself. There are even rumors of drug money and cartel support for his administration. Yeah, well, the thing is, he's a former bus driver. What the fuck's a bus driver know how to about run a country? I think that's all the reason you need. I mean, who cares about drug conspiracies? He's just a fucking bus driver. How the hell did he get in there in the first place? Now, there's not much reliable information on this, but Juan Guaido, I think it's entirely possible that he is a U.S. puppet. And if so, then neither of them is legitimate. Keep your ear out and your eyes out in the future for news of Juan Guaido's legitimacy being brought into question, because at some point I think that is really going to come up. Right? Because if you look at his stance talking about bringing democracy to Venezuela, he's using a lot of all too familiar Bush-era taglines. Now, mind you, that's not evidence. That's not evidence, but he still fits in. He obviously fits in with that general crowd, the way they think, the way they act. So he could easily be a U.S. puppet designed to turn the whole country into a U.S. puppet. Yeah, good old American empire never ends. Anyway.